There's a hill, just outside Briarwood, Pennsylvania. Nothing special about it, you know. Grass, some trees, a rusted chain-link fence that's been there since the 70s. But if you walk up to the north side in February, and only in February, you'll see something that doesn't make sense. A door. Cut into the earth. Metal, old like it's been there forever. The locals, they don't talk about it. And if you ask them why, they'll just say, "That was Eleanor's project." And then they'll change the subject. Eleanor March moved to Briarwood in 1987. She was 34, quiet, kept to herself. She bought the hill, yeah, the whole hill for next to nothing. The land was worthless, too rocky to farm, too isolated to develop. People thought she was crazy. But Eleanor, she didn't care what people thought. She had a plan, and for the first 6 months, no one knew what it was. She'd drive up to the hill every morning before dawn. She'd stay until dark, never explained what she was doing. And then, one day in late February of 1988, someone saw it. A hole dug into the north face of the hill. Not a cellar, not a bunker. Something else. At first, people assumed it was a storm shelter. Briarwood gets tornadoes, you know. Not often, but enough that you think about it. But Eleanor didn't live on the hill. She lived in town, in a small rental house with peeling paint and a sagging porch. So, why build a shelter somewhere you're not? And why only work on it in February? Because that's the thing people started to notice. March came, April, May. Eleanor stopped going to the hill. She went back to her job at the library. She planted tomatoes. She lived a normal life. But the next February, she was back. Every single day. Digging, building, hauling materials up that hill like her life depended on it. And this went on for years. By 1991, people were talking. Some thought she was hiding something. Drugs, maybe. Money. Others thought she was just eccentric. Lonely. A woman with too much time and not enough sense. But a few people, mostly the older folks, started to get uneasy. Because they remembered. They remembered what happened in Briarwood in February of 1959. It was the worst winter Briarwood had ever seen. Record snowfall, then a warm snap in mid-February. The Kettle River, which runs through the valley below the hill, it swelled overnight. By the morning of February 18th, half the town was underwater. 12 people died. The flood wiped out homes, businesses, livestock. It took the town a decade to recover. And the thing is, it happened fast. One day, everything was fine. The next, the river was a monster. No warning, no time to prepare. Gone. By 1994, Eleanor had been working on the hill for 7 Februaries. And the structure, whatever it was getting bigger. Someone from the county came out to inspect it. Zoning complaint. They found a reinforced steel door, a ventilation system, solar panels that hadn't even been wired yet. And inside, shelves, empty, waiting. The inspector asked her what it was for. Eleanor looked him dead in the eye and said, "You'll understand in February." That was it. No explanation, no permit application. She just kept building. February 2003. Eleanor was 50 now. Grayer, thinner, but still hauling supplies up that hill, every single day. And then, on February 14th, something happened. The weather forecast started to shift. A massive winter storm was forming out west. Unusual patterns. Record snowfall expected. And then a warm front. Just like 1959. The meteorologists on TV were calm. Some flooding possible in low-lying areas. Stay tuned. But Eleanor? She wasn't calm. She started moving fast. Eleanor went to the town council meeting on February 16th. She stood up in front of everyone and said, "The river's going to flood. Worse than 59. You need to evacuate the lower valley." People stared at her. The mayor, polite but clearly annoyed, said, "Eleanor, the forecasts don't show." "I don't care what the forecasts show," she snapped. "I've been watching this river for 16 years. I know what's coming." Silence. And then, someone in the back laughed. "You've been digging a hole in a hill for 16 years, Eleanor. That doesn't make you a meteorologist." More laughter. Eleanor didn't argue. She just left. And she went back to the hill. February 17th, 2003. The snow was melting. Fast. You could hear it, water running everywhere, dripping off roofs, pouring through gutters. The Kettle River was rising. Not alarming yet, but rising. Eleanor spent the entire day loading the structure. Water, canned food, blankets, medical supplies. And then she did something no one expected. She started knocking on doors. She went to the families in the lower valley, the ones closest to the river. She told them, "Come to the hill. Tonight, bring your kids. Bring what you can carry." Most people shut the door in her face. But a few listened. An older woman named Ruth, who remembered 59. A young couple with a newborn who lived in a trailer by the riverbank. A man named Jack, whose basement was already starting to seep. 7 people in total. They followed Eleanor up the hill. And when she opened that metal door, they saw what she'd been building. It wasn't a bunker. It was a refuge. 2 rooms, reinforced walls, shelves stocked with supplies. A hand crank radio, a first aid station, sleeping mats. Everything you'd need to survive if the world outside became unlivable. Ruth started crying. "You've been building this for us," she whispered. Eleanor didn't answer. She just started handing out blankets. Midnight. The river broke. Not slowly, not gradually. It exploded. A wall of water 6 feet high came roaring through the valley. It tore through homes like they were made of paper. Cars flipped. Trees snapped. Power lines went down in showers of sparks. And the people on the hill, Eleanor and her 7, watched it happen. Helpless? Horrified. Inside the structure, they could hear it. The roar of the water. The creak and groan of the hill itself. Jack kept asking, "How did you know?" Eleanor didn't answer for a long time. And then, finally, "Because I lost everything in 59. Silence. I was 6 years old. My family lived in the valley. My parents, my brother, they didn't make it out." She took a breath. "I survived because a neighbor grabbed me and ran. But I remember what it felt like to have no warning, no time, no place to go." She looked around, at the faces staring at her. "I swore I'd never let that happen again." By morning, the water had receded. But the damage was catastrophic. 32 homes destroyed. 4 people dead. The town was in shock. And Eleanor? She walked down from the hill with her 7 survivors. Alive. People didn't know what to say. Some were grateful, ashamed they hadn't listened. Others were angry. If you knew this was coming, why didn't you do more? Eleanor just shook her head. I tried. And she had. She'd warned them. She'd built a refuge. She'd offered shelter. But you can't save people who won't be saved. A reporter came to interview Eleanor a few weeks later. He asked the question everyone wanted to know. Why did you only work in February? Eleanor smiled, sad, tired. Because that's when I could see it clearly, she said. Every February, I'd come back to this place. I'd look at the river, the snow, the temperature, and I'd remember. The rest of the year, I could almost forget, but February made me remember what I lost, and what I had to do.
As you can see on the blueprints,
the town wanted to turn Eleanor's structure into a memorial,
but also serve as
a community shelter, a symbol of resilience. But Eleanor said no. It's not a symbol, she said. It's a tool, and it needs to stay ready. She kept maintaining it every February until she died in 2019. After Eleanor's funeral, her lawyer revealed something. She'd left the hill and the structure to the town. But with one condition.
as you can see here,
It had to remain exactly as she'd built it.
exactly as built.
No renovations, no tours, no commercialization. Just a quiet refuge. Ready, waiting. For the next February, that doesn't make sense. When the town council finally went inside to catalog everything, they found something Eleanor had never mentioned. A journal. 16 years of entries. All written in February. In it, Eleanor had recorded everything. River levels, snowfall, temperature shifts. Also, her fears, her doubts, her loneliness. One entry from February 2001. I don't know if anyone will ever use this. Maybe I'm building it for nothing. Maybe I'm just a crazy woman, digging a hole in a hill. But if I'm right, if this happens again, and I didn't do everything I could, I'd never forgive myself. Here's the thing, no one talks about. Eleanor's structure? It saved 7 people in 2003. But it could have saved dozens. Maybe more. If people had listened. If they hadn't laughed. If they'd believed her. Eleanor knew that. And she carried that weight for the rest of her life. Not the weight of failure, but the weight of being right when no one wanted you to be. Eleanor March didn't build that structure because she was paranoid. She built it because she'd lived through the worst day of her life. And she refused to let anyone else feel that helpless. She built it because trauma doesn't just break you. Sometimes it teaches you to prepare for the unthinkable. She built it because February, for her, wasn't just a month. It was a reminder of what we lose when we ignore the signs. Of what we save when we take them seriously. Today, that structure still stands. The door's still there. The supplies are still stocked. Maintained by a rotating group of volunteers. People in Briarwood don't laugh about it anymore. They call it Eleanor's promise. Because she made a promise to a town that didn't believe her. And she kept it. Anyway. Every February, someone from the town goes up to the hill. They open the door. They check the supplies. And they leave a single flower on the threshold. A reminder that the people who seem crazy, the ones building something no one understands, might be the only ones who see what's coming. What she built beneath the hill only made sense in February. But maybe that's exactly when it needed to make sense.